Welcome to this predicted paper from On Maths. This paper represents the best guess for the upcoming exams. Please use this paper in addition to your other revision. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our On Maths site. On Maths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions, and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing. Enjoy! If we put this in a place value grid, and so we've got thousands, hundreds, tens, and units. We've got 9, 0, 8, 8. So it's 9,000, because it's 9 lots of thousands, and 8 tens, so it would be 80. And we've got 8 units, so 8. For this question, it's really important that we understand what the words sum and product mean. Now, sum just means add, and product just means times. So we're going to start by adding the 5 and the 4. So that will equal 9. And then what we're going to do is find the product of 9 and 7. So we're going to multiply them together. 9 times 7, which is 63. So our answer is 63. If there were 39 people on the bus and 4 people got off the bus, that would leave 35 people remaining on the bus. So the fraction of people staying on the bus is 35 out of the 39 people on the bus. So our answer is, as a fraction, 35 over 39. We can't cancel that any further. For this question, we're going to have to remember BIDMAS or BODMAS. So we're going to first of all look and see if we've got any brackets. Well, we do. We've got the 11 squared minus 21 in brackets, so we're going to be looking at that bit first. Inside the brackets, though, we don't have any brackets, but we do have an indice. We've got that 11 squared, so we're going to deal with that first. So 11 squared is 121. So we've got rid of the indice, but we're still looking at the bracket. So we're going to do 121 minus 21, which is going to be 100. Now we have no more brackets, no more divisions, but we do have a multiplication. So it's going to be 300, and that's our answer. Here we're given two angles on a straight line, and we know that all angles add up to 180 on a straight line. So to find out what A is, we're going to do 180 take away 95. 180 take away 95 is going to be 85 degrees. So angle A is 85 degrees, and the reason is that angles on a straight line add to 180 degrees. And try and get used to writing down the reason as well, because there are quite a lot of marks for the reasons. So a prime number is a number that is only in the 1 times table and its own times table. So 4, for example, is not a prime number because it is also in the 2 times table. 6 is in the 2 times table. 15 is in the 3 times table. 21 is also in the 3 times table. 9 is also in the 3 times table. Now 1 is a bit of a special case. The definition is that it has to be in 1 and its own times table, and technically 1 is only in one of those, so 1 is not a prime number. The smallest prime number is actually 2, but 2 is not in this list. 23, though, is not in any other times table, so 23 is a prime number. Mode means most common or most frequent, and looking at this list of numbers, the number that comes up the most is this 7. All the other numbers just come up once, as 7 comes up twice. Frequency just means how many. So when it says the frequency for a score of 11, it just means how many 11s are there. So I'm going to cross these out as I go. So 1, 2, 3. So 3 11s. Then for 12 there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For 13s there are 1, and for 14, 0, 1, 2, 3. For us to create the smallest number, we need to pick the smallest digits at the start of the number. So the smallest digit is 3, then the next smallest digit is 4, next smallest digit is 5, then the next smallest digit is 8. But it wants it to be an odd number, and this is an even number. So we have to move that 8 forward 1 and have that 5 at the end. So the smallest odd number is 3,485. To find the fraction of an amount, what we do is we divide by the bottom of the fraction and we times it by the top of the fraction. So the first one we're going to do is 100 divided by that 5, and that would be 20. Then we're going to get that 20 and we're going to times it by the top of the fraction. So 20 times 4 is 80. So our answer will be 80 centimetres. This coordinate is telling us to go 2 to the left from the centre. We go right when it's positive, we go left when it's negative, so it's 2 to the right. And then it's telling us to go 1 up. It's up because it's positive. So we need to go 1 up, and we get to the coordinate of B. So the coordinate we get to is B. And so we just look at the -2 on the x-axis and the 1 on the y-axis, and that is where point B is. So for shop A, they're selling the rulers in lots of 3. And so we just need to get our 60 and divide it by 3 to figure out how many lots of 3 we have. So we've got 20. So if one bundle of rulers costs £1.50, then 20 times £1.50 would be £30. So in total it would cost £30 at shop A. We're going to do the same for shop B. Their bundles are 5 rulers, so we're going to do 60 divided by 5, which is 12. So we're going to buy 12 bundles at £2 each, and that will be £24. So the cheapest price is at shop B at £24. The angles in the triangle add up to 180. So I'm going to take away the angles that we know, which is this 63 and this 72, from 180. And when I do that, I get the answer of 45. So my answer is 45 degrees. So the way these tables work is if you're looking for distance between Chauvin and Grill, you find out where the two of those overlap. And so they overlap at the 41. So you go down from Chauvin, left from Grill, and we get 41. And so it would be 41 miles between them. To find the factors of 30, we're just going to write down all the factor pairs, or all the pairs of numbers that multiply together to make 30. So 1 times 30 is 30, 2 times 15, 3 times 10. Now 4 doesn't go because 30 is not in the 4 times table. 5 times 6, and we notice that if we pick 6, it's just going to be 6 times 5, it's just going to be the opposite. So the factors are all the numbers that we've just written down, so it would be 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 10, 15, and 30. I'm going to start just by copying out the question. So we've got x over 12 equals 4, and when we're asked to solve, it means we need to find out what x is. We need x equals, and the method for doing it is just by putting lines either side of the equal sign, our solving lines, and what we need to do is we need to get x on its own on the left hand side. What's stopping x from being on its own? This over 12. What does over 12 mean? Well, it means divide by 12. So how do we get rid of it? Well, we do the opposite, the inverse of divided by 12. What is the opposite of divide by 12? Times 12. Now these lines show us that whatever we do on the left hand side, we have to do on the right hand side. So we have to times 12 both sides. So on the left hand side, we're left with x. On the right hand side, we do 4 times 12, which is 48. So our solution is x equals 48. So 55% is the same as 55 over 100. And what I can do is I can divide top one of the fraction by 5. And so that is going to equal 11 over 20. Now in total there are 20 squares here because there's 5 across and 4 down. 5 times 4 is 20. And if there's 20 squares and we're looking to shade in 11 20ths, it's just going to be 11 squares. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. If we write in how many sides each shape has, triangle has 3, quadrilateral 4, pentagon 5, hexagon 6, you'll notice the number of vertices is twice the amount of each of them. So if a shape has 15 sides, we just times that by 2 and it will have 30 vertices. Whenever we multiply two negatives, we always get a positive, so we know our answer will be positive. We're going to do 9 times 12, which is going to be 108. And v times v, which is going to be v squared. So we're going to first of all work out what 100% of 260 is, and that's just 260. Next we're going to work out what 10% is. And 10% is very easy because we just divide it by 10. So 260 divided by 10 is 26. And we also need a 5, so I'm going to try and grab a 5%. And we do that by halving the 10%. So that'd be 13. And then all we need to do is add the 26 to the 13, because the 10 plus the 5% are 15. And that's 39. So our answer is 39. So football is represented as a quarter of this pie chart. And so if there are 60 students altogether, we just do 60 divided by 4 to find a quarter of it, and that's 15. So there are 15 people who picked football. This question's all about like terms. So what we can do is we can add this 10u with this 11u to make 21u. We can also add this 6v with this plus 4v to make 10v. We can also add this 10w to this minus 6w. So 10 take away 6 is 4w, so plus 4w. But we can't add a u term to a v term to a w term. So we have to just leave them be. So our answer is 21u plus 10v plus 4w. But we can multiply them, we just can't add or subtract them. To find the midpoint, we can use this simple formula. And we're going to start off by finding the midpoint for the x component. And the formula is just adding the two x coordinates and dividing by 2. So we're just going to add the two x coordinates together. So we've got 2 plus minus 1 divided by 2. And that's going to be 1/2, or 0.5. Could do the same thing for the y coordinates. And the formula is the same, but just with adding the y coordinates together and dividing by 2. So it's going to be minus 5 plus 2. All of that divided by 2. So that's going to be minus 3 over 2, or minus 1.5. So 100% of 120 is 120. And let's put that in a bubble. So we're going to split that bubble up to find out what 10% is. And to find 10%, all we need to do is divide it by 10. So divide 120 by 10, you get 12. And then we want to split that bubble up again into 5%. And 5% is found just by halving it again. And so that would be, or just halving it, so that would be half of 12, which is 6. we could do with 1% as well. And we're trying to get to 26%, so we'll do 1%. So dividing the 10% by 10 again, 1.2. And we could do with 20%, and 20% just means we're going to double the 10%. So double 12 will be 24. So to work out 26%, we need to add these together to get to 26. So we're going to add these numbers here together. Okay, so we've got a 6, a 1.2, and a 24. And we're adding them together. And that would be 11, so carry the 1, and that would be 3. Now, it says to decrease it by 26%. So 26% is 31.2, so we need to subtract that. So we're going to do 120, take away 31.2. So I need to borrow 1 from the 2 to make that a 10, borrow 1 there to make that a 10, and that would be a 9. So 10 take away 2 is 8. 9 take away 1 is 8. And there's a 1 here, so we need to borrow that 1. That's 11 take away 3, which is 8. So our answer is 88.8. To find the surface area of the cuboid, I'm just going to label the faces and do them individually. So we've got A, which is 24 by 13. So we're going to do 24 times 13, which is 312. Next we're going to do B, which is this one at the top, and it's 24 across and 8 is the length. So 24 times 8, which is 192. And finally C on this side here, which is going to be 13 times 8, which is 104. Now notice that the faces all have the exact same face on the opposite side. So this one at the back is also A, this one at the side is also C, and the one at the bottom is also B. So what I'm going to do is add up all the areas of the squares and double it. So to work out the surface area, we're going to do 2 times and then 312 plus 192 plus 104, and that will give me 1,216 centimeters cubed squared, because it's an area. The experimental probability is the successful outcomes divided by the total number of outcomes. So we're looking for the probability that it's white, so it's going to be 25 over, and we're just going to do 35 plus 25 plus 31, which is 91, and that's our probability, 25 over 91. Be careful when it say total, you must include all of the outcomes, so red, white, and other. I'm going to rewrite this expression by putting a times sign in, so 9 times x minus y squared. Then I'm going to substitute in the values, so x is 4, so it's going to be 9 times 4 minus, and then y is 3, so it's going to be 3 squared. So 9 times 4 is 36. 3 squared is 3 times 3, which is 9. And 36 take away 9 is going to be 27. Let's rewrite this expression, but with a times sign in, so v times w squared. Now w squared just means times by itself, so we can rewrite that as v times w times w. Okay, so we know v is minus 10, so minus 10. And we know w is minus 4, so it's times minus 4 times minus 4. Okay, so when you multiply, it doesn't matter which order we do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do these ones first, and I'm going to ignore that times minus 4 at the end. So minus 10 times minus 4, that's a minus times a minus, which is a positive. 10 times 4, which is 40, times minus 4. Now we're going to do 40 times minus 4, so it's a positive times a negative, so that's going to be a negative. And 40 times 4, well, 4 times 4 is 16, so 40 times 4 is 160. So it's going to be minus 160. So we've got to first of all work out how many parts there are altogether. So oil has 21 parts, vinegar has 5, so altogether there's 21 plus 5, which is 26 parts. Now, how many of those parts are vinegar? Well, vinegar is the second one, so it's going to be this 5. So vinegar has 5 out of the 26 parts, or a fraction would be 5 over 26. It's quite difficult to see where to start with this question, but I do notice that we've got the F terms here, 44F, and an F term here, 16F. So there must be some way of linking the two, and actually there is. If you look, we've got, let's just use a different colour, we've got C angles here, or interior angle. We've got the two parallel lines on the left and the right hand side, and a line going connecting the two, and it kind of makes the C that you can see in purple. So that means that we know that angle CAB plus angle ABD are going to equal 180. So if we add them together, 16F plus 44F is going to equal 180 degrees. The reason for that is that they are interior. Now you could call that co-interior or allied angles or interior. All three of those will get the mark for the working out. So we're going to just put our tramlines in and solve this to find out what F is. So 16F plus 44F is going to be 60F, and 180, so we're going to divide by 60 both sides, and we get F equal to 3. Right, the other thing I notice is that we have a parallelogram, and something we know about a parallelogram is that the opposite angles are equal. Now you could also look at this angle and this angle also adding up to 180. They're also interior angles. Kind of doesn't matter with this question which approach you take, you'll get the same answer. So we know that y is going to equal 44 times f, and the reason being is that they are opposite in, start a new line here just so I've got room. They're opposite in a parallelogram, which is absolutely fine to state as a reason. That is a known mathematical thing. The opposite angles in a parallelogram are equal. So that's going to be 44 times 3, which is going to equal 132 degrees. So y is 132 degrees. The median is the middle number when the numbers are in order. Now it's quite difficult to do with a table, so we used a formula, and that formula is to find the position of the median. We do how many numbers there are, which I'll call n, we add 1 to it, and then we divide that by 2. And that shows us where the median is. It doesn't tell us what the median is, it shows us where it is. Now, we need to figure out where these numbers are in this list. So the first number is a 2, and there is one of those. The next number is a 3, and there's 3 of those. So 1, 2, 3. The next number is a 4, and there's 4 of those. So 1, 2, 3, 4. The next number is a 5, and there's 8 of those. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and the next number is a 6, and there's 13 of those. Now I'm not going to do all of them, okay, because we're not going to be working out the median by writing out all the numbers, but I do want to show you where these numbers are coming from. So what we do is we do a running total. So I'm going to do a running total. The running total is just adding up the frequencies as we go. So the first one is just 1. Then we're going to add the 3 in the next row, so that's 4. Add the 4 in the next row, 8. Add the 8 in the next row, 16. Add the 13 in the next row, and that would be 29. Now, we use the running total because the running total shows us where the last number is in that group. Okay, so this shows us that the first number is the last number that is a 2, which is true. We can see it here. This 4 shows us that the fourth number is the last number that's a 3. So let's check that. 1, 2, 3, 4. It works. This 8 shows us the eighth number is the last number that's a 4. Let's check that. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This 16 shows us the 16th number is the last number that's a 5. So 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And this 29 here shows us that the 29th number is just the last number, but it's the last number that's a 6th. Okay, so let's work out how many numbers there are. And we do that by adding up the frequency. So we're just going to add up all of the frequency together, and we find out that there's 29 numbers altogether. So 1 plus 3 plus 4 plus 8 plus 13. So using our formula, which is 29 plus 1 divided by 2. 29 plus 1 is 30, divided by 2 is 15. So we're looking for the 15th number. So looking down our running total list, well, the last number that's a 4 is the 8th number, so we haven't got to the 15th number yet. And the last number that's a 5 is the 16th number. So if the last number that's a 5 is the 16th number, then surely the 15th must also be a 5. And so our median is 5. So what we need to do is find out where the graph is at its highest, and so it's highest here. And so if we go down from there, we find out what year it is. Well, these years seem to be going up in 1, so that's 1950, 1951, 1952. So the answer would be 1952. So we've got to first of all work out how many parts there are altogether. So we're told that the ratio of red, yellow and green is 3 to 2 to 4. So to work out how many parts there are altogether, we do 3 plus 2 plus 4, which is 9 parts. So there's 9 equal piles of sweets. Okay, but to work out what one part or one pile of sweets is worth, we're going to get the 99 sweets and divide it by the amount of piles, and that's going to be 11. So one part is worth 11 sweets. We're asked to find out how many yellow sweets, and yellow is the middle one, so it's going to be the 2. So yellow has 2 piles of 11 sweets. 2 times 11 is going to be 22, so it's going to be 22 sweets. So when you look at this graph, it looks like it's going down as well as up. So it goes down to start off with, and then it starts going up, but then it starts going down again. And when you're looking at trends, you're looking, generally speaking, what's happening with it. So if you kind of draw a line to represent roughly where the graph is going, that line is going to go up. So the general view on it, the general trend is that it is increasing. So you can write general increase in emissions. To work out the circumference, we need to first of all work out what the diameter of this is. And to do that, we just draw a line across the circle, and we can see the diameter is twice as big as the radius. So the diameter is going to be the radius times 2, which is 28. Formula for the circumference of a circle is just pi times the diameter, which will be pi times 28. Now to write this in terms of pi, which the question asked for, we just put the number first and then pi. So it will be 28 pi. So we're going to track the amount of eggs needed to make a certain amount of cupcakes. So we're given in the question that it's 6 cupcakes requires 4 eggs. And what we're going to do is we're just going to work out how many eggs is required for 1 cupcake. So we're going to divide both sides by 6. And that's for 1 cupcake will be 2/3 of an egg. And we're looking to make 18 cupcakes, so I'm going to times that by 18 on both sides. So for 18 cupcakes, 2/3 times 18 is going to be 12 eggs. So we're going to require 12 eggs. Something else we could have done to go straight there is just times the amount of cupcakes by 3. times the amount of eggs by 3. For this question, it's really useful to label angles that you know on the diagram, even if you can't go straight to the answer. So I know that if I extend this line here, but let's do a bit of a better job of that. So if I extend this line here, the north line, then I can work out what this angle is, because it's going to be the same as this angle here. And the reason is it's Z angles, which are alternate angles. So I know that this angle is 35 degrees because of alternate angles. The question asks to find the bearing of C from B. So we're at B and we're finding the angle that C makes from north going clockwise. Well, it's going to be this angle here we're looking for. And if we look, we already know what this side is, which is 180 degrees because it's a straight line. We've got the 35 degrees there, and we've got the 21 degrees. So it's going to be 180 plus 21 plus 35. It doesn't matter which order we add them, which will equal 236 degrees. So for this question, we just need to pick one of the coordinates. I'm just going to pick this one here. And we just need to work out what the coordinates are. Well, it's going up in 2, so it's going to be 4 on this side. And this is kind of 4.5, so that's going to be 19 there. So we know it's 19 at the bottom and 4 at the side here. So we're going to have a look on our table for a 4 and a 19. We've got a 19 and 23 here. It's got to be a 4 and a 19, which is here. And it shows that the 4 is for paper 1 and the 19 is for paper 2. So our answer will just be paper 2. Whenever we're putting fractions, decimals and percentages in order, the best way of doing it is converting them all into decimals. So here we've got 0.8, which is already a decimal, so that's just going to be 0.8. Here we've got 9/10, so 9/10 is 0 in the units column and a 9 in the tenths column. 7/25, well, something we can do with that is just times top and bottom by 4, so we get 28/100. So it's going to be 0 in the units column, 2 in the tenths column, and 8 in the hundredths column. Next thing we're going to do is draw a little place value table. And so we've got units here, tenths and hundredths. So we've got 0.9, 0.28 and 0.8. And you can see here that looking at the tenths column, that 2 means that this 0.28 is the smallest. So 0.28 is 7/25, so that's our smallest. And it says it wants it in ascending order, which just basically means from smallest to biggest. Okay, looking at that, so we've dealt with that. The next smallest is that 8, so 0.8. So 0.8 will be our next smallest. And then the largest is that 0.9. Now 0.9 is 9/10. Now always make sure that if it's given in a fraction that you don't write the decimal in the answer. You want to make sure you write what the question had with it. For each of these options, try and construct in your head the triangles that would be made from these lengths. And I'm going to give an example for question D, or for option D. And I'm going to construct my triangle just with sticks. So we're going to start off with our first stick, which is 19 centimeters. Then we're going to do another stick, which is going to be 37 centimeters. And we've got one last stick, which is 61 centimeters. Now, looking at the first two sticks, the actual combined distance of them, so when we add them together, so be 19 centimeters plus 37 centimeters, is 56 centimeters. So that's the combined width of them. And you can see that that actually wouldn't be able to create a triangle if the third stick is 61 centimeters. So the side here could combine with this side. So we could move this whole stick here onto this side here, but we can't actually make a triangle with it because the two lengths that we've got won't ever reach the end bit here. They just won't ever reach that bit to be able to create the triangle. And I'm just going to put that back. So our answer is option D. So 3 as a percentage of 10, the first thing we can do is write that as a fraction. So 3 over 10. And then I can get the bottom to be 100 and the top will become the percentage. So I can times the top number here by 10. So that becomes 30 over 100. And percent means per 100. Here we've got 30 per 100 or 30%. So the answer is 30%. I'm just going to write the question out a bit bigger, just so we've got more room. And loads of different methods of expanding brackets. I'm going to do smiles and rainbows. So we just draw a smile rainbow, and I'll put a little line there to remind me to times it. So we do 5 times 7, which is 35, and it's 7x, so it's going to be 35x, and 5 times 4, which is 20. So our answer is 35x plus 20. A different way of writing this is 1 plus 1/3 plus 2 plus 3/8. So what we can do is just add the 1 and the 2 together to make 3. And then all we need to do then is find out what 1/3 plus 3/8 is. So we're looking for a common denominator between those two. And 3 and 8, if you write out the 3 and the 8 times table, the common denominator is 24, which is 3 times 8. So we're going to times top and bottom of the third by 8. So it becomes 8 over 24. And top and bottom of the 3 over 8 by 3. So that's 9 over 24. Add the tops when the bottoms are the same, so that would be 17 over 24. And then that would just make the answer 3 and 17 over 24. When we estimate, we normally round to one significant figure. So what I'm going to do is just rewrite this question, but rounding everything to one significant figure. But I'm just going to miss out this square root for now. So 3.3 would just be 3. And 4.7 would just be 5. Now, the problem with this 27 is square rooting 27 is difficult, especially without a calculator, and estimating should be done without a calculator. But if I round it to the nearest significant figure, if I round it to one significant figure, that will make it 30. Now, 30 is no easier to work out. So square numbers are a bit of an exception. When you've got square root, it's a bit of an exception. You've got to find it to the nearest square number. So 27 to the nearest square number is 25. So square root of 25 is 5. And then 5 take away 3 is 2. Times 5 is going to be 10. So our answer is 10. The way I remember what to do here is using KFC, and what the K stands for is we're going to keep that fraction exactly the same, so 2/3. We're going to change, that's what the C stands for, change that divide to a times, and we're going to flip, that's what the F stands for, the 8 over 7, so it becomes 7 over 8. Then all we need to do now is multiply the tops, multiply the bottoms, and simplify if possible, so we can actually divide top and bottom by 2 here, and it becomes the answer, which is 7 over 12. We know that all linear graphs follow y equals mx plus c, with m being the gradient and c being the y-intercept. So looking at this equation here, we've got c is positive 5, so we know the graph is going to hit the y-axis at 5. So let's plot that. And we know for every 1 it goes to the right, it's going to go up 2 because the gradient is 2. The number before the x is 2. So if we go 1 to the right, it's going to go up 2, so that'll be 7. Then another 1 to the right, it's going to go up another 2, so that's going to be 9. So that is going to be 7, and then that's going to go up to 9. So we've got to draw it in, and make sure you do it draw the line for the whole graph, not just the points that we've just plotted in. And it should be something like this. So we're asked to rotate the triangle A 90 degrees clockwise and the centre of rotation at 0, 0. So we're going to first of all just show where the centre of rotation is, which is at our origin. And what you do is you get tracing paper, trace out the triangle, and rest your pen or pencil at 0, 0. So I'm just going to draw it out. So just copy it out. And what you do is you'd push your pen into 0, 0. And unfortunately I can't do that. But when you rotate it 90 degrees clockwise, the shape will end up here. And so we just got to line this up perfectly. A little bit less rotation maybe. There we go. And then what you do is you'd lift your tracing paper and just draw in the shape underneath. And it says to label in the triangle as B. The important thing to realise in this question is that we know a female has been selected. So we can just basically get rid of all of this part of the frequency tree because it's not relevant, because we know a female has been selected. So there's 29 females altogether, and we're looking for the probability that the female chosen at random picked action. So it's just simply 16 over 29. We can write the equation of any straight line as y equals mx plus c, m being the gradient and c being the y-intercept. Now the y-intercept is the easy one because it's just where the line crosses the y-axis. In this case, it's going to cross it at 2. Now to find the gradient, we need to find two coordinates that we know, and preferably next to each other. So I'm going to pick the same coordinate, the y-intercept coordinate, and this coordinate here, we know what that is. And the definition of the gradient is for every one we go to the right, how far up we go. Well, here we actually go down, so we're technically going -3 up. So the gradient is going to be -3 because it's gone down 3. So our equation is m equals -3x plus 2. So here we're asked to find how many bread rolls we can make. We've got 89 kilograms and it takes 0.08 kilograms to make a bread roll. Something we can do is convert these into grams, or we can just keep it at kilograms, but I've got a neat little trick. And the trick is, if you've got a decimal when you're dividing, as long as you do the same thing left and right, you can multiply them by 10 or 100. In this case, we're going to multiply both by 100 because it will make the division a lot easier, because it will make this right hand side, instead of 0.08, it will just make it 8. The reason we can do that is 89 divided by is the same as 89 over 0.08, and as a fraction we can just times top and bottom by 100, so it would be this over 8. So now we can do the bus stop method. So 8 on the outside, and in fact I might use a straighter line here. There we are. And we've got 8,900 on the inside. So 8 into 8 go 1, 8 into 9 go 1, remainder 1, 8 into 10 go 2, remainder 2, and 8 into 20 go 2, remainder 4, and 8 into 40 go 5. Now it says how many bread rolls can we make. Now we can make 1,122 and a half. Well, half doesn't really count, so we're just going to say 1,122 whole bread rolls. Yes, we've got half a bread roll left over, but we are asked how many whole bread rolls can we make. So we know that 171 is 3 times 3 times 19. And what we do is we just compare 171 with 342. And we know that 171 times 2 is 342. So therefore 342 will have the same prime factors as 171, which is 3 times 3 times 19, but it will also have a times 2 in there. So the answer will be 2 times 3 times 3 times 19. To find the gradient, we use a simple formula, which is m equals the second y-coordinate take away the first y-coordinate over the second x-coordinate take away the first x-coordinate. So our second y-coordinate is 17, so it's going to be 17 take away the first one, which is 14, over the second x-coordinate, which is 60, take away the first one, which is 45. So that's going to be 3 over 15, and then cancel that down, will be 1 over 5. So our gradient is 1/5. So we're told that y is proportional directly to x. So what I'm going to do is just replace that proportionality sign for an equals, and I'm going to times the right hand side by k to be able to do that. Okay, we're told that x is 4 when y is 9.6, so we're going to put in 9.6 for y, I'm going to put in 4 for x to be able to find out what k is. And k is a constant, which means it will always stay the same. So once we find it, we only need to find it once, and we found it forevermore. So that's going to be 2.4. And I'm just going to rewrite this equation here, but we know what k is now. We know it's 2.4. And I'm going to find out what y is when x is 5. So y equals 2.4 times 5, which will equal 12. So we know that y is 12. So if we imagine we've got the 25 meter pipe here, and we've got the 35 meter pipe here. The question's basically asking us what can we cut all these pipes into, and they all have to be the same length that will fit with the 25 meter and the 35 meter. And essentially what this question is asking is what is the highest common factor of 25 and 35. So to find the highest common factor, what we do is we just find the factors of 25, which is 1, 25, and 5, and 5, and the factors of 35, which will be 1 and 35, and 5 and 7. And the highest common factor is the number in both lists, the highest number in both lists, so it's 5. So what we can do is we can cut all of these pipes into 5 meter pipes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, not to scale, and then 7 of these. So 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and so there's 7 in total. So each of these are 5 meter long, and there's no wastage. And that's the longest we can make the pipes for there to be no wastage at all. So my answer is 5 meters. Whenever we solve, we've got to get rid of any fractions or brackets first. Now looking at this, there's no fractions, but there are 2 sets of brackets. We've got the set of brackets here, and we've got the set of brackets here. So we're going to expand them to get rid of them. And you can use any method you want. I'm just going to use this kind of grid method. So we're doing 4 times, and inside the brackets we've got 3x plus 5. So I'm going to times those out. 4 times 3 is 12, so that'll be 12x. 4 times 5 is 20, so that's going to be positive 20. And I'm going to do the same for the other set of brackets. Now on the outside of the brackets we've got to be careful here. It's not a 5, it's a minus 5. And inside the brackets is an x and a 2. So minus 5 times x is minus 5x. Minus 5 times 2 is minus 10. So when we put it all together, we get 12x plus 20 minus 5x minus 10, and then the rest of it is just equals 52. So I'm going to start by putting my lines in because we're solving. And I'm actually just going to start by collecting the like terms on the left hand side. So 12x take away 5x is going to be 7x. And 20 take away 10 is going to be 10. Okay, now we need to get rid of the plus 10. So we're going to take away 10 both sides. So we've got 7x equals 42. And then we need to get rid of the times 7. So we're going to divide 7 both sides. So x equals 6. Sometimes it's easier with these questions to multiply both numbers by, say, 10 or 100 or 1,000. So if we look at the 0.06, if we times that by 100, it would make the question a lot easier. But with a division, if you times one of the numbers by 100, you have to times the other one by 100. So we just go times the 30 by 100, and times the 0.06 by 100 to make that 0.6. And this actually is the same calculation as 30 divided by 0.06. The reason being is that you can write that as a fraction. And you know with fractions, you can just times the top by something and times the bottom by something. It doesn't change the fraction at all. It just keeps it exactly the same. So we're going to use the bus stop method to find out what that is. So we're going to divide that out. 6 doesn't go into 3, so carry that. 6 is into 30, go 5. 6 into 0, 6 into 0. So that's going to be 500. When you have a fraction, it's just a fancy way of showing a divide. So this is x to the power of 11 divided by x to the power of 3. And indices rules say that when you divide two powers with the same base, you subtract the powers. So it becomes 11 take away 3. 11 take away 3 is 8. So that's x to the power of 8. So we're going to start just by writing this out. So m equals 7 brackets x minus 10, and we're going to put our solving lines in. I'm going to start by expanding the brackets, and we don't need to. We could divide both sides by 7, but I think this is a bit easier. And we're going to subtract, or we're going to add 70 to both sides. So we're trying to get x as the subject. So we're trying to get x on its own. And we're next going to divide both sides by 7. So we have m plus 70, all of that over 7 equals x. So x equals m plus 70 over 7. So we need to first of all work out the amount of machine minutes it takes to make a toy. And what we do is we multiply the amount of machines by the amount of minutes. So 5 times 40, which would be 200. So if we had one machine, it would take 200 minutes to create one toy. Here we're asked, well, okay, what if we wanted a toy every 8 minutes? So we get the 200 and we divide it by 8. And when we do that, we get 25. So if we had 25 machines, we would be able to make it every 8 minutes. And the logic here is 5 machines, so this is machines, and this is minutes, is 40. Then 8 minutes, if you think about it, we divide that by 5 to get to 8. And so if we divide the amount of minutes by 5, we actually times the amount of machines required by 5. So this is called an inverse relationship. So if one doubles, the other halves. If one divided by 5, the other will times by 5. So our answer here is 25 machines. So for this question, we need to understand the different types of graphs from different functions. So if we have a reciprocal graph, it looks something like this and like this. It could be the other way around, and it could be distorted, but it basically goes down to a point along here. It goes to infinity, and it goes to infinity along a point over here, and obviously those positions could change. Then we've got a linear graph. A linear graph is just any straight line, so just any kind of straight line, either up or down, and this doesn't look like either of those. Then we've got a exponential graph. An exponential graph just starts really small and then just really increases like that and just keeps going up. And here we kind of have that, obviously the other way around, it starts going down, but here it's actually going up, so it can't be a reciprocal graph. So the graph that this is, or could be, is a quadratic graph, because it's a nice U shape. So if we carry this on, it could be a nice U shape. It could also be a cubic graph as well. So it could go up and then down and then up, and that's a cubic graph. But the most obvious one is a quadratic graph. So quadratic function. The formula y equals mx plus c includes this m, and the m means the gradient. So if we're looking for something that is parallel to y equals 9x plus 18, we're looking at this number here. And for it to be parallel, it needs to have the same gradient. So we could just write y equals 9x plus or subtract anything. Or we could just write y equals 9x. I'm going to say plus 5. So we've got to first of all understand what standard form is. And standard form is a number that is between 1 and 10, but not including 10, times 10 to the power of another number. So to find out what the numbers are going to be for our standard form, we're going to just write down the decimal first, so 0.098. And we've got to put a decimal point in somewhere to make this a number between 1 and 10. So if I put it in here, that would make it 9.8, and we're ignoring the zeros to the left-hand side. So we know that our standard form is going to start off with 9.8 times 10 to the power of something. Now this times 10 is always going to be there. It's never divided by 10 or anything like that. It's always times 10. Next, we've got to find out what the power is going to be. So first of all, if it's a small number, if it's a number less than 1, which this is, it's a small number, it's going to be a negative power. And the next thing we do is work out how many jumps we had to do. So it would be 1, 2 jumps between where the decimal point was and where it is now. So 2 jumps means it's going to be to the power of minus 2. So the first thing we need to do is factorise the quadratic, and so we put down 2 sets of brackets. And an x will be at the start, and so we're thinking about 2 numbers that times together to make 44 and add together to make that minus 15 there. So the 2 numbers will be minus 11 and minus 4. So minus and a minus is a plus when we times them. 11 times 4 is 44. And then when we add them together, minus 11 plus minus 4 is minus 15. And all we need to do now is get each of the brackets equal to 0 and solve it. Get our lines in. Add both sides. Add 11 to both sides. And we get x equals 11 as one of the solutions. And then we do exactly the same thing to the other bracket, get it equal to 0. Get our lines in, add 4 both sides, and we've got x equals 4. So our other solution is 4. To find an error interval, what we need to do is find the smallest and largest that a number can be. So I start by just drawing a quick number line. And we put our number in the middle, which is 89.6. Now we're looking to the nearest tenth, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down the next number down and the next number up in tenths. So the next number down would be 89.5, the next number up would be 89.7. Now the bounds, the upper and lower bound, the maximum and minimum number it could be before rounding, are going to be at the halfway points. So here and here. And so all we need to do is work out what those numbers are. So halfway between 89.5 and 89.6 is 89.55. And halfway between 89.6 and 89.7 is 89.65. So those are going to be our lower and upper bounds. But how do we show it as an error interval? Well, we put t in the middle because it tells us that t is representing the time, and we show it with inequalities. Now, the number can be 89.55, but it can't be 89.65 because that would round to 89.7. So we say everything that's less than but not equal to. So we notice with the simultaneous equations, we've got the coefficients of the x and the y's different. And I always focus on the y's. So I'm going to make the y's the same. And there's no reason you couldn't focus on the x's and make the x's the same. It's just I tend to always focus on the y's. So what I'm going to do is figure out what 3 and 8, so I'm ignoring the signs, what's the lowest common multiple of 3 and 8, so what's the first number in both their times tables, and that's going to be 24. So I need to make them both 24. So I'm going to write out the first equation, so 2x minus 3y equals 12. Get my lines in, and I'll notice that I'm going to times everything by 8 to make that y, the coefficient of the y, to be minus 24. So we got 16x minus 24y, which is good, that's what we wanted. And then we're going to do 12 times 8, which is 96. Going to write the second equation, so we've got 3x plus 8y equals minus 7. And this time I'm going to times everything by 3. And so we've got 3 times 3, which is 9x, plus 24y, which is good, that's what we wanted. And then minus 7 times 3, which is minus 21. So we're going to write these out again. So 16x minus 24y equals 96, and 9x plus 24y equals minus 21. So with simultaneous equations we're working downwards, so I'm just going to show that with circles. Make sure the signs go with the y's. And we're either going to add or subtract to these. I'm just going to make that more clear. That's 96. And to know whether we're going to add or subtract, we look at the one we've made the same, so with the y's we've made the same, and we look at the signs. If the signs are the same, we're going to subtract. If they're different, we're going to add. So S in the same is S in subtract, the D in the different is the D in add. Well, looking at them, they are different because the first one's a negative 24, the second one's a positive 24. So we are going to be adding. But we're not just going to add those, we're going to add all of them going downwards. So we're going to do our kind of sum line, and we're going to add going downwards. So 16x plus 9x is 25x. Minus 24 plus 24 is going to be 0, which is good. That's what we wanted. We want to get rid of the y's. And then we've got 96 plus minus, so effectively minus 21, which is 75. Do a quick solving by dividing both sides by 25. And we've got x is equal to 3. Now we know what x is, but we've got to find out what y is. So what we're going to do is substitute the value of x into the first equation. So we've got 2 times 3 minus 3y equals 12. Well, 2 times 3 is 6, so we're going to take away 6 both sides. And we've got a minus 3 as the coefficient there, so we're going to divide both sides by minus 3. So we've got y equals minus 2. So the way this formula works is we have m, which is the final amount. The 2000 here is our initial amount. The decimal in here is our multiplier, and the power here is the amount of years. So the way multipliers work is they are the percentage divided by 100. So if we go the other way and times it by 100 to make it back into a percentage, it will be 102.9%. Now it says, what is the interest rate of the bank? Well, the interest rate is always going to be 100%. Well, this 102.9% is 100% plus the interest rate, which will equal the 102.9%. So the interest rate is going to be the 2.9%. You always start off with 100%. So if I put £5 into my bank, I've got 100% of that £5, and then the interest rate is on top of that 100%. So our answer here will be 2.9%. So to answer this question, you need to just know the answer off by heart. There is a diagram that can help us actually get there. And if we just draw a right angle triangle and put the lengths as 1, not right angle here, we can use Pythagoras, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, to work out the fact that this is going to be root 2. Because it's an isosceles triangle, this angle here is going to be 45 degrees, and same with the bottom right one, but we're not interested in that. When we label it with our marked angle here, we've got the adjacent is here and the hypotenuse is here. Now we know from trigonometry that cos x equals a over h. The angle is going to be cos 45, and a is going to be 1, and h is going to be root 2. Now, this is a bit of a strange one with 1 over root 2, because we need to actually be able to rationalise the denominator. And basically what that means, if you haven't done surds yet, or you aren't doing surds, is you times top 1 by root 2. And so we end up with root 2 over 2. So if you ever see 1 over root 2 is absolutely fine as an answer, but if you ever see the answer as root 2 over 2, the two are actually exactly the same. So writing 1 over root 2 is fine, or writing root 2 over 2 is also correct. To start these questions, we always start here, and we go down the line. So it says probability of winning both games. So we're going to go up this one, and we're going to pass this fraction here, and then we're going to win the second game. So we're going to go up this one and cross this fraction here. Now the bit at the end will show us the probability of winning game 1 and the probability of winning game 2. So probability of winning game 1 was the first fraction we circled, which was 10 over 11. Probability of winning game 2 was the second one we circled, which is 4 over 5. The word and in probability means times. So we're going to times the tops, which is 40, times the bottom, which is 55. And we can divide top and bottom by 5, so that will give us the probability of 8 over 11. In this question we have a right angle triangle, and we know 2 of the sides, and we're looking for the third one. So that screams to me Pythagoras. So Pythagoras is a squared plus b squared equals c squared, with c squared being the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is the one opposite the right angle, so this is going to be c. And we'll label the other ones a and b, it doesn't matter which way around they go. So a is 5, so it'd be 5 squared plus 12 squared equals c squared. 5 squared is 25, 12 squared is 144. And so 25 plus 144 is 169. Now that's c squared, so we need to solve here, and the way to solve is just to square root both sides. And so it would be 13 equals c. Because it's distance, we don't worry about the negative 13, so just the positive 13. So we know c is 13, so we need to know what the total length around the triangle is. So we're going to add the 5, the 12 and the 13 we've just found. When you do that you get 30. So we know there's 30 meters in total. Now it does say that we need 90 milliliters of paint per meter of wood. So the amount of paint needed is going to be the 30, because that's the total distance, times the 90, because we need 90 for every meter of paint. 3 times 9 is 27, and then put the 2 zeros at the end. So the answer is 2,700 milliliters. So when we're doing column vectors and adding and subtracting them, we just literally add and subtract the top and bottom numbers. So a plus b minus c will be, just looking at the top, 9 plus 18 minus 9, 9 plus 18 minus 9, which will equal 18. And the bottom will be 9 plus minus 18, so really minus 18, and minus 9. And so that will be minus 18. So our column vector will become 18 minus 18. To find the resultant vector, we just get the two vectors and we add the tops and add the bottoms. And it's a plus minus 13, so it's 9 take away 13. When we do that, we get 13 at the top and minus 4 at the bottom. So we're asked to express TQ in terms of P and Q. Well, we've got another Q here, because all of these are congruent parallelograms, and we have a P there. So if we're starting at T and getting to Q, we can go along this path here and down this path here. So we're going backwards down Q, in fact backwards down 2 lots of Q, and then the correct way down P. So it's either minus 2Q plus P or P minus 2Q. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our OnMaths site. OnMaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing.